I was actually sleeping on a mattress on the ground because I was in training to be a pro wrestler, believe it or not. But what if I can also do this sports broadcasting thing? The plan on the W.A.D.E concept for me is obviously to really grow the influencer boxing scene. This scene has the potential, I've said it for years, to be something we've never seen. It's become something that I don't think anyone prepared for. That's your sweet ass, I'm going to talk about it, right? I wanted to be better for him, for my family, for my name, than to regret not taking a chance to do something I love. Work, because I'm not going back there.
Hello and welcome to the Influencer Boxing Show with, as always, your host, myself, Charlie Woollard. And today's guest is a very special guest, a man that is heavy in the influencer boxing scene, but not just that, a man that likes to get the gloves on himself, and the man that hosts the W.A.D.E concept, your own channel. W.A.D.E Plem,
yes.
Welcome to the studio, bro.
Here,
welcome
man.
to London
yes.
well.
I'm
You all
here.
good? How you keeping?
I'm good, man. Every time I come to London, I have to adjust to a couple things. One is the coffee, which is not nearly enough sugar because my American fat ass, sorry, I'm going to curse, is always needing sugar. And two is the weather, because I'm from sunny California and I get to gloomy but nice because I do like rain, UK. So I'm actually getting to wear a hoodie for the first time. Shout out my company update.
Big plug.
The first minute of the podcast. But yes, I'm doing well, man.
And as well, you mentioned the weather. In all fairness, bro, I think you've hit it at the worst point because the weather's been so hot.
Good?
It's been so hot the last 2 weeks. I know this is the first time, you can't see from the camera, but I'm actually wearing cargos, and normally I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah.
So you've actually hit it at the worst time.
You know.
But what we're going to be talking about today is everything influencer boxing, and as well about yourself, because you've come a long way, and that's where we're going to start off first. Because I've done some research. I've known W.A.D.E for a while. I've seen him about. This is the first proper time that we've actually had a real good conversation.
Yeah.
So first of all, pleasure to meet you, bro.
Of course.
Heard very, very good things.
Yeah.
But let's go back. 5 years ago was the first the first video that you posted on your channel.
Yeah.
It was a podcast. Tell us about that, because you must look at that and go, wow, I've actually come a long, long way.
Oh, man, you have no idea. So at the time, I was living in Florida. I was actually sleeping on a mattress on the ground because I was in training to be a pro wrestler, believe it or not. So I wanted to be like a WWE wrestler, and I was trying to find my way. I was actually interning with ESPN at the time as well, and I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. Basically, my idea my whole life is I want to do cool stuff. That's been the way I want to live. I want to do cool stuff. And so I was like, well, if I can do this pro wrestling thing, but what if I can also do this sports broadcasting thing? And then on my own time, I can build a resume, because I didn't have a college degree. I dropped out of school. I don't have the resume to go and walk up to some hoity-toity place and be like, hey, here's my CV. It has 4 years at a prestigious college. I didn't have that. So my idea was, let me start a YouTube channel, and through me actually being on camera and speaking, this will be my resume. This will be how I go to companies and say, I can do this job. And so I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to shoot. I didn't know about angles and cameras, and I just knew I wanted to, so I turned the camera on and went.
Yeah, and what I've learned, I'm 23, right? So what I've learned, this
He's
is
a
not
baby,
okay,
man.
I'm not making him feel
He's a
old.
baby.
Just to
He's
let you
like,
know.
yeah, I'm young and 23. You're an old-ass 30-year-old man.
Don't you put them words in my mouth there. The reason why I mention that is because what I've done so far, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, is I've learned from mistakes I've made from the past in terms of maybe editing something wrong or filming something wrong, or I watch back my presenting or reporting, I go, oh, I should have done that a bit better, or why did you say that?
Yeah.
Is that the way you've learned as well? Because again, you started your channel 5 years ago, so I'm guessing you've posted some videos, especially that first one that you look at, you go, oh, no.
Oh, it was rough.
No.
It was rough, man. You do, man, because for one, you're always going to have that. Like, I've been in interviews where I went, I wish I would have asked that. It's going to happen every single time. It happens all the time. But the biggest teacher for me has just been not holding on to it, right? Because I'm so hard on myself, and everyone says they're a perfectionist. If you talk to anyone on my team, I'm like, I have a hard time letting go of anything. I edited my own stuff for 4 years. I shot my own stuff for 4 years. I'm in front of the camera and behind it. So I'm very, very picky and very meticulous with how I want things to be. So letting go of some of that has been my biggest growth. It's been me being able to say, okay, listen, one, trust yourself. Don't be so much in here. And also, say what you see. These things, when I take these off, I can't really, but God bless me with the ability to see things, analyze it, and regurgitate in a way that is understandable by a mass audience. I try to do that, and again, just don't overthink it.
And your channel, as of filming today, is on over 330,000 subscribers. Woo! First of all, congratulations, because that's some achievement. In a 5-year gap as well, which I think is very, very impressive. Where have you seen your channel grown from, though? What really kicked everything off for you, would you say?
So we were on, I think I've told this story. We were on, we were working on the W.A.D.E, or I say we, I was on the W.A.D.E Concept channel for 3 years, stuck on about 250 subscribers or 300 subscribers, just every week, 3 live streams a week, going, making no headway. I was covering MMA at the time. And then the influencer boxing scene started. And I looked at it a little differently than people that I wanted to be, or at least emulate, or in some way become one day, like the brass of boxing and MMA and all those things. They looked at it and kind of scoffed at it and was like, this is a clown show. What's going on with these guys? Disrespectful to boxing, all that. I looked at it and said, you know what? I have enough experience to know I don't know a lot, so I can, while I can't look at like a guy like Canelo and be like, oh man, look at, we gotta keep those hands up, brother. Like, what are we doing? And can't do that. Like, I'm just gonna look like a goofball. But for guys that are learning the sport, like I have, it's a way for me to go, hey, listen, here is how your favorite influencer is doing, learning this sport. Here's what their style is gonna look like, and here's why they can be successful if they go against someone their same level. So the first big thing was I covered the Logan and KSI 1 fight, and then it was actually I was in a car driving to the Grand Canyon, and then I covered Gib and Jake, and that one really went well, and I started to kind of be like, okay, so there's something here, and little by little I just kept getting better at the back end stuff, editing, shortening my videos, finding ways to make better thumbnails, do the YouTube side, but also leaning more into the influencer boxing. And
practice makes perfect is what you've done over the years. And that touches nicely actually onto the influencer boxing scene as a whole, because the way it's sort of transformed from the KSI Joe Weller fight, if you remember watching that back in 2017 or 2018, I think, around about then, to where we are now with massive shows with DAZN, the likes of Kingpin as well. It's like the multiverse, I like to call it. It's crazy, isn't it? And the amount of players of every industry almost coming together, like the likes of Blueface, for example, dropping in. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's wild, man. You couldn't tell me I'd be sitting here 5 years ago. You couldn't tell. I'm sure you probably couldn't tell KSI he'd be running a boxing promotion and doing it successfully 10 months in, right? From what I understand, they're profitable as well. So doing that, having the backing of a worldwide global brand like DAZN, the promotion itself has been top notch. And who would have predicted that from, like you said, not even just KSI and Joe, but Joe and Theo, the YouTube channel.
I was going to say, that was the OG video,
the YouTube video, right? So I look at myself as very blessed for it, but yeah, it's become something that I don't think anyone prepared for. We had no idea this was going to happen, but at the same time, part of the reason it did is because we put no limits on it. We weren't sitting here going, okay, this is going to be it. They just kept building and kept building. And KSI and Logan, fair play to them, and Joe as well, just took it to another level, and then just off to the races.
And going back quickly to the W.A.D.E concept, because we mentioned here the growth that you've had, different ideas, the way it started, even doing videos throughout the Grand Canyon, which is crazy, by the way.
Shout out to my ex-girlfriend for holding the camera for like 2 hours while I did that video.
Well, sometimes exes can be good things. Sometimes can make you into a better person as such. but what I will mention is, where do you want your channel to go next? Because I'm sure some people have maybe like 6 to 12 months in terms of ideas, or after a year, or what's been going on in the world of the W.A.D.E concept?
Well, listen, we have I don't know if people know this. I have 3 channels. I have the W.A.D.E concept. I wore this today just to make sure we got it on camera. I have the breakdown.
Full promo today.
Come on now,
that's
incredible. You know what I'm saying? Shout out my boy Face Sensei, Oos. That's my podcast co-host. And then I have W.A.D.'s World, which is like where I cover things that aren't influencer boxing. My idea is to be everywhere that I can be and speak knowledgeably, but also provide a service and or a place for people to go and gain knowledge or gain some sort of perspective. So the plan on the W.A.D.E concept for me is obviously to really grow the influencer boxing scene, because this scene has the potential, I've said it for years, to be something we've never seen. We've never experienced boxing growth that quickly, really any sports growth that quickly. And there's so many compelling characters, right? And I say characters because we are influencers at the end of the day. People watch us because they care about who we are, or at least who we show them. So that is a whole different thing. There's something that I've never in any other sport been able to latch on to. Like, I don't know LeBron James as a person, or at least I don't see him enough to know. I know he dunks on fools, and he averages 28, 8, and 7 a game. And that's why I watch, because he's one of the greatest. He's the greatest face sensei. You heard me.
I was going to say, is he the greatest?
He's the greatest. I'm saying it right now, to ever play the game. But that's not why we watch influencer boxing. We watch it because we get to see start to finish how these guys that we already cared about, we already were invested, do with a new challenge in their life. Do they accept it? Do they thrive? Do they fail? We're there to support them. If our favorite grows and it builds and builds and builds, we get this massive payoff. So on the W.A.D.E concept, that's where I'll be. Also covering the pro scene as much as I can. I'm not going to act like I am a boxing analyst to the highest degree, because I'm not. But I do love covering some of the bigger fights in the scene and things that excite me. You know, when a fight pops up that I'm like, oh, man, I want to talk about it. You bet your sweet ass I'm going to talk about it, right? MMA is something I'm super passionate about. It was my first love in combat sports. So that'll be on that channel, as well as, you know, me hopping in and showing some techniques and doing things that, again, I think is valuable. Like, I can sit and talk all day. We talked about this. I can sit and talk all day, talk all my shit, say whatever I want. But if I'm not walking the walk at least a little bit, that respect for my knowledge of what I'm saying or what I'm seeing and saying is not what it could be. So I want to put myself in uncomfortable positions because I'm speaking about people already doing that. It's not necessarily super fair of me to do it if I'm not willing to at least take some of the same risk and get in there and say, hey, listen, this is tough stuff. Let's not forget, at the end of the day, we can say this and say that. Those guys are making the walk.
And as well, with this scene particularly, because of the amount, we were actually speaking in the lift on the way up about the amount of eyes that is on this scene.
Massive.
Because of the amount of influence that are now in this scene. Because remember, if one enters, you've got a maybe 1.2, 1.5 million worth of audience. I'm not saying every single one of them comes over, but you're going to get a lot of eyes on the attention.
But a built-in audience that you're not going to get from any other amateur making, you know, that transition to pro. Part of the attraction is this is bragging rights, but it's also some of the biggest eyes and most pressure in a short amount of time that you have to deal with, while also being like, oh yeah, and now you have to go box. So it's something that you just don't get anywhere else. And
what have you, so through the growth, especially your YouTube channel and things you've done with broadcasts as well, what have you found your biggest challenge? Do you ever sit back and maybe you mentioned you're really hard on yourself, and I think that's very common, by the way. I'm exactly the same. Yeah, because that's a good thing. It means you have to be, because again, you might someone, I don't know, 5 to 10 people might go, oh, you've done that really well, but then you get home and you're like, that's not it. No, that's not it. And that becomes through being a perfectionist. But what would you say is your hardest challenge so far, would you say?
I think the biggest challenge for me, I'm better with it now, like I said earlier, was letting go and trusting others with things. Like I said, I'm very hands-on with stuff. But as far as the channel itself, the biggest challenge for me has been being able to implement everything that I have here there, right? Like, I have so many ideas, and to flesh out ideas, I am not a videographer. If I pick up that camera right now, somehow I will cause it to malfunction and explode. Like, I don't know how to do it, right? I don't really know how to edit. I know how enough to be able to edit my videos, but to tell a story and have that cinematic and raise that volume when things
extra
are
sound effects,
the sound effects, bombs. The after, all that. I don't know, you know. So that stuff I've had to kind of outsource, and now we have a team around, and that's been a really, you know, a good thing. But the biggest thing I want to do is show that ESPN might have the biggest budget for a sports media company in the U.S. Maybe it's BBC out here. I don't know, Sky Sport, whoever it is. I want to show, or I want to put in people's mind, I can work 4 or 5 times as hard and make that gap up, because I'm not as talented. I'm not as talented as some of these greatest commentators. I don't have the access to a full 30-person team, but I will outwork you. And I want to show that I can do that. So biggest challenge right now is breaking that gap between YouTuber and respected, you know, knowledgeable, hardworking, actual commentator.
And I'm from what I'm gathering so far from what you said, I think all of this, correct me if I'm wrong, all of this sort of work ethic and passion has actually started from wanting to be a wrestler, because it's a hard graft. It's a hard graft. Anything to do with boxing. I'm not saying any other industry, any other. If you want to be any other sports person, is not as hard. But especially like that, it's almost working up the ladder, isn't it? That's where it's come from in my eyes.
It's come from so many places, man. I grew up on a farm in rural Tennessee, you know. So you find how to work hard very quickly, because we're not the richest people in the world. And one of the things that I always looked at as a kid, I don't think I've ever told this story. My dad's a welder, right? So he would get up and 2 a.m. every morning and go to work. And I am a light sleeper. And as a kid, I'm always like looking around, let me get my midnight snack, trying to, sneak around. So what I would always see is my dad would he would keep the bedroom door open in case one of those kids, we had, I have 3 brothers, we needed help or something, I don't know. He would swing his legs out. He had his work boots by his bed, and he would sit there for a second. He would just pause. He would just kind of sit. And that always looked to me like he was making that decision. My dad hates his job. Hates it. I know that. But making a decision that it was more important that all of us 5 in the house got fed than his selfish, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to go ahead and quit, whatever. I wanted to be better for him, for my family, for my name, than to regret not taking a chance to do something I love. So that's where that instill work, because I'm not going back there. You know what I mean? Like I had nothing, and I've had moderate success here, and I'm blessed with that, but I'm not putting on those work boots and going and welding. I'm not doing it.
That's fair enough. But again, so this is why this sort of show, for example, is beautiful, because it sort of reveals the stories that you don't always see and you don't always tell. But would you say you're a massive family person then as well? So you're always speaking to your family. Yeah. I'm guessing they obviously still living in Tennessee.
Yeah. So my dad and them live in Tennessee. I got a brother out there. One of my brothers lives in California. Got another younger brother out in Tennessee. I just want to put you guys know me as W.A.D.E. Plem. My full name is W.A.D.E. Plemons. I
was about to say that.
Yeah. And I want to put that last name on the map. I want to put small town Loudon, Tennessee on the map and say, it doesn't really matter where you came from. You didn't have to have the degree. You didn't have to have the connects with the family. You didn't have to have a lot of money. You just had to work hard. That's it. And maybe it was harder than everybody else. And I'm not saying that I've had to work harder than anybody else. Like, everyone has their own backstory and everything, but whatever it was that got me to this place, I always look back and it was work. So for the family, I like to see my mom smile when a new video comes out. I like to see all that stuff. So yeah.
Now, what was a moment where you've covered a lot of fights now, and you've been involved, especially with the influencer boxing scene as well. But what was a moment where you actually maybe took a step back and went, wow, I just did that. Like, oh, wow. And maybe, I don't know, maybe your parents or your dad, your brothers contacting you I know what it
was. It was, we went to Dubai for Deji and Floyd Mayweather. And I was sick, and I just started dealing with like some blood clot issues, and I was frustrated, and I'm like, man, I want to do this. And I was complaining a bit. My guy Christian will tell you I was not a happy camper that trip. But we did the event, and all the stuff that happened, John Fury getting his freaking top off and going woolly mammoth with his baloney tits hanging over the...
Just sounds like John Fury, to be honest with you.
He was hanging over the top rope, and it almost hit me in the face. Jake Paul is screaming at Tommy Fury during the commentary. I didn't even know I was going to be commentating with Jake. And then we called the Floyd fight after we did an hour-long fill, me and shout out Andy Shepard. And, Adi Oladipo was there the whole night, whatever. And then I get on my phone after the event, and I hear myself on SportsCenter. And in the U.S., SportsCenter is ESPN's, da-na-na, da-na-na. That's their big thing.
SportsCenter is huge. Yeah.
It's massive. As a kid, I grew up watching that show at 11 p.m. at night, 6 a.m. in the morning. I was there. To hear my voice there, and then to step back and go, shit.
I just did that.
We just did that. We just did and again, not even that, too, a Floyd Mayweather fight. I'm sitting there commentating with Lawrence Okoli sitting beside me on Floyd Mayweather fighting. That was one of those moments I was like, damn.
That's nice. Yeah. That's why I always like looking at them moments, because when you have your down days, you actually have to step back and go, right, look, I did that. And especially in this scene where you have so many opinions thrown at you.
Oh, yeah.
So many. How do you deal with all of that? Because that, in all fairness, it is tough. You have to have a thick skin. Even if you wanted to be a sports person, you've got so many eyes on you at all time. Yeah. It's tough.
The problem with me is I treat everyone like they're normal people. And so...
Exactly the same. Yeah.
If you're here on this thing... and you're like, Wade, you suck, blah, blah. I'm going to talk to you like I'm talking to you. Like, all right, show me. What's up? Like, I'll go back and forth. And I sometimes don't realize that it's counterproductive for me and also for the community I'm trying to build, that I give every single thing attention when it doesn't really need that. So I don't deal with it in the way that I probably should and just like, whatever, because I'm super combative. I mean, I cover combat sports. So if you think my opinion's there, let's debate it.
You got the dog in him. You got the dog in him.
The WADE concept is it's an acronym. We are debating everything. I literally live by it. Sensei and I will talk about basketball, talk about combat sports for 5 hours a day. We don't care. We will just continue to go back and forth. So that's one thing I say I should do better is probably not give everything attention. You've crossed that barrier into proper celebritydom, right? Like KSI he runs this place. He's got it by the throat. I think at some point JJ's going to have to answer that question. What happens if the karate stance or the style doesn't work? And Jake will have to answer the question, what if I can't put this fool down? Jake doesn't want the KSI fight as much as KSI wants the Jake fight. Tommy Fury has hit the lottery, ladies and gentlemen. I love KSI taking this challenge, but it is a massive step up from what he's had. Jake hit him with the right hand, could have put him down. I can't. I was one of the guys that told Deji to stop boxing. You're not taking this seriously, stop boxing. But then he started taking it seriously. There's a special set of rules for KSI and Jake. They have to win. Like, they have to. If not, it all goes away.